Thank you, team, so much for joining us for our third episode of the Hillsong LA Vocals series. This is part one of our worship leader series that is starting today. Next week, part two comes out where we will be chatting with Dave Ware, all things worship leaders. I'm really excited for you guys to see that one. This week, we're going to be talking with some of our worship leaders here at the LA campus. We have Kris Hodge here, who has been a part of our Hillsong team for the past 6 years now. He was a worship leader at the Sydney campus, and now he's here. I think he's been here for the past 5 months now. Is that right, Kris?
Yep.
I'm so excited that he's here now. He's a project manager for the Hillsong Music and Brands, but we're just so thankful he's here. We also have Karina Savage, who just also recently moved to LA with her husband. They're currently overseeing our youth team, which we're so thankful for. She's also a worship leader for Young and Free, and she's a part of a band called Glades. If you didn't know that, you guys should totally go check it out. Side story here, back in 2012, when I was dating my husband, Glades was literally the soundtrack of me exploring Sydney. Our favorite song was Her, Loving You. Literally, that, like, I play that and it's like nostalgic. I can see the beach. I can see the coastline. Like, it's, you guys should definitely go check it out. But let's just jump right into it. Thank you guys so much for taking the time out of your day to pour into our team, and that we're so thankful that we're getting to do this and that we're able to connect with the team via Zoom. How did you start worship leading? Where did it start for you? Let's start with you, Kris.
Well, I grew up in church. My parents are pastors, and so I've kind of always been around church. And I was actually a musician, so I played keys and drums. And then as I got older, I realized, like, oh, I might actually be able to sing. And so I just started singing at my local church every now and then. And then when I moved to Sydney, just became part of the vocal team there. Yeah, just kind of realized, like, worship leading, like, I just realized that worship leading is pretty much a different skill set. It's not only singing, but it was something that I was up for. And so just kind of teamed up with a bunch of people over there, and they kind of helped train me, and been doing it ever since.
That's awesome. Karina, how did you start worship leading? What's your story?
Yeah, I feel like our youth ministry, especially back home in Australia, well, not home, LA is home now, but in Sydney, it's just like such an awesome place for young people to like discover, you know, their gifts and talents and like be able to step out of what they thought they could do, but like into what God has for them. And that's kind of what my story was. It was basically I was a high school student that was very shy and, you know, didn't really sing in front of many people, but I just had some leaders that, you know, were already a part of Young and Free that had really just like encouraged me to just step out and do things that I hadn't before, and, you know, get up the courage to start singing in front of other people. And I had some role models in my life that just pushed me when I didn't feel like I was ready, but encouraged me. And it's kind of awesome. I feel like the youth ministry, it has, you know, a way of pushing young people into God's calling for them. And I kind of feel like that was what happened for me. And then a lot of people have just been so believing and encouraging and allowed me to grow a lot in my spiritual walk. And also like what Kris was saying, like understanding that it's not just about having a good voice or like singing, but, you know, actually, yeah, it's deeper than that on a spiritual level as well. So growing in that sense as well, and having cool role models in youth. Yeah.
It's incredible that you had people pouring into you, and now that you're doing the same for our youth, which is super cool. It's full circle.
Yeah, definitely.
All right, so let's jump into question 2. Throughout the years that you've been worship leading, what's been one of the most important things that you've learned? Let's start with you, Kris.
Sure. I guess throughout the years, worship leading within our context, I think it's been important for me to understand that we're leading within the context of church. And so, like, we have to be on the same page with, our leaders and our pastors. It's not just like, oh, I want to sing these songs, or I feel like this is going to be awesome for the church. But it's like, no, actually, what are our leaders expecting? What are they seeing for our congregation, and kind of sitting under that authority and leading within that? I think it's important that we realize that we're part of a team. We're not just this rogue worship team, but we're actually doing things in line. We're pointing people back to what's happening in the service. We're setting up for the word. We're setting, whatever context we're in. I think it's been important for me to realize, okay, we're building something together. And so it's important to hear what's on, I guess, in LA, Sam's heart, what he's wanting to kind of pull the church into, and then working within that to support.
That's great. I love that. It's not just about us. And I feel like sometimes when you're in the spotlight, it can easily become about you, but then taking that focus off and putting it towards, how can I support my leader? How can I support the congregation? I think that's awesome.
Man, Kris with the wisdom.
Get out of here.
I guess I feel like I was thinking along the same vein as he was. I think when I was growing up and when I was younger and kind of starting out worship leading, I felt a lot of the time like I had so much nerves and I was like weighed down and I was like, oh, I can't do this, and just letting my nerves get the better of me. But I think when you come to the realization that it's not about like your voice or how well you sing, or it's just about like leading people like honestly into the presence of God and like being there first yourself in your own time. And then when you go to a service on a Sunday or like wherever you are leading, that it's less about how good you are or anything like that, and more about just like honestly leading people into God's presence. And when I had that realization, it became less about, oh, I'm nervous, and more about like less about me and my abilities, but more about like leading people and like where we're going. Yeah.
I specifically love that you said you had to find an honest place for yourself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I kind of want to jump into that and ask you, how do you find that honesty in worship leading? Because I feel like sometimes it can be distracting with what's going on around us and what's going on personally, and then you're giving so much. How do you find that place of authentic worship between you and God and come to that honest place when you're worship leading?
I guess it's just, having that honest relationship beforehand, before you even step up there, and knowing that like you have to actually delve into that time, that quiet time by yourself, and like set that time apart. You can't fake anything, like it's clear once you're up there if you have a relationship with God and if it's real, and you need to delve into that in your own time before you can ever like begin leading other people. And I guess it's just like being intentional in your own time and discovering that for yourself.
I agree with what you said, Karina. Like, I think Sundays or wherever we find ourselves leading, that's kind of an overflow of kind of our relationship with God, during the week. Although when you're worship leading, there's so many things you're thinking about, the band, the MD, you're trying to think about the moment, you're trying to making sure you're crafting moments for the church, but still in all of that, it's an overflow of worship. So you're not so consumed with what you're doing, but it's honest because the words you're singing are true and you've connected with it beforehand. Jumping up on a Sunday is not the time when you need to get to know God. I think that's the time where you get to show people, this is where we're going, and this is what I've seen, and this is what I believe God is doing.
Yeah.
That's so great. I also love that you said it's super important to connect with what you're singing. I want to ask both of you, for people who are, wanting to become a worship leader and are learning, tuning in right now, how do you prepare for worship leading spiritually? How do you get into that honest place? How do you connect with the words that you are singing? What does that look like for you practically?
Yeah, wow. I think our church makes it really easy because the songs, that we have coming through it's very intentional, the word of God, like, Pastor Robert and Amanda work with Karina and all the other songwriters to make sure that what we're singing is true. And I think our songs make it easy to see the truth. But I guess personally, how I connect with the songs is simple, like just knowing the song beforehand. It can be easy to get caught up in, oh, there's a lyric screen back then. I just make sure I sing it and be attached to that lyric screen, but not really know the lyrics in your spirit. And so I try to make it a point to know every song that I'm going to sing without the lyrics, because I think that helps me get it in my spirit beforehand. So sometimes I'll just read the lyrics and just look at the theme of it and say, okay, this is what the song is talking about. This is what the song is trying to achieve. And that just helps me.
Preparation is key. Preparation brings freedom, it sounds like.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
I was just going to say, like, I disagree with everything that Kris said, and just like, preparing and actually having that song like in your spirit before you bring that to church on a Sunday, and like, yeah, and just knowing and being prepared with that song or that set list of songs, and yeah, having it in your spirit. Yeah.
Have you guys ever been in a situation where you're going through something in your life and it's really hard for you to connect with what you're singing, what you're believing in? There's all this stuff going on in the side. How do you marry bringing that focus and making it about Jesus when there's all of the distraction going around you?
Yeah, wow, that's good. I think because a lot of our song, like, I think it takes faith, and I think if there's a lot going on and I feel distracted, I don't necessarily feel the connection. I still sing the song in faith because I believe the words are true, and I believe in it. I might not necessarily feel connected to those words or, what's going on, but I do believe that the words are still true. I do believe in God. And I think there have been times where I haven't been feeling it, but I still had to lead. I had to put that to the side and say, what I'm feeling doesn't dictate what I give. What I'm feeling doesn't dictate the experience, that the room that we want to create for people to experience the presence of God. I don't think it's a lack of honesty. I actually just think it's honesty within yourself. It's like, okay, look, before you get up there, like, I don't know what I'm feeling. I'm not feeling this right now, but I'm going to sing it to you, God, and I'm going to lead these people because I believe you're good and you want to meet with us.
I feel like I've even like found myself just like singing over in faith over those situations, and like it is just like honest worship and in an honest place. And if you are going through something, it's normal. Everyone does go through things, and the people that you see like leading you in worship, they're everyday people who go through things as well, and so that's okay that you're going through things. And it's like what Kris is saying, that like just singing out in faith, and even like singing over that situation, and actually just it's I think it's a powerful thing to praise God in a time when you're struggling, because that is a faith-filled thing. And I think worship, it just takes your perspective off of yourself and puts it on God. And I think that's a beautiful thing. And like, if you are going through something, that's the best place to be. That's the best thing to be doing. So I think when you leave it on the side, when you enter into worship, I think that in itself is a freeing thing, and changes your perspective into something that, brings life. Yeah.
So I want to ask one more question before I ask you the last question. This last question before I ask you the last question. What am I saying? I don't know.
So the second last question.
We were talking about this in episode 1 about culture and just how we live our lives on and off platform. And Matt was talking about something like, when you're on platform, the spotlight is obviously on you. I want to ask you, how do you give yourself a heart check in, am I making this about me? And how do you shift your focus into making it about the real purpose, which is worshiping and leading people into the presence of God?
Yeah. Okay, I'll go first this time. You go first. Just being, the kind of worship leader that's teachable is a really awesome trait to have, like being able to, you know, have someone that you trust and then going up to them afterwards and being like, hey, like, what can I improve on? What about the service is good, but also like I want to improve, and I want like the focus to be on God and like grow like my gift so that I can glorify God in a better way. And yeah, just having those people that you trust to get feedback and growing better as a worship leader. I think having that teachable spirit is like, I guess being humble in that is something awesome, that like you don't make it about yourself, but you make it about like, how can I better facilitate people entering into God's presence? And yeah, it's something like I still always want to be learning and like still asking people like, what can I grow at? What can I be better at? Even, you know, like however many years like you've been worship leading, there's always room to grow. There's always more that you can learn. And I'm trying to, I was going to say something else, but I forgot. So okay, I'll hand it over to you.
No, that was great feedback. I love that. Just having those open lines of communication with people, like Karina said, that you trust, and they can tell you about yourself. And I think what I love about our church is we're not really about celebrity cultures. Like you can get up and lead a service and you come off and someone's like, yeah, that was great. But then you come back to being a normal person. Like you're not someone like, oh, he's a superstar. And I think having people around you that will just talk to you normally, which I think our church does really well, is really helpful to keep yourself in check. Yeah, I think, just going back to the feedback thing, and I think when I've in myself felt a little bit like, oh yeah, I kind of killed that, you know, just checking myself personally, like having the discipline to say, what having the like emotional intelligence and the discipline to say, what is that in me that is feeling that way, and I don't want that to grow. Addressing it personally, having that responsibility on yourself. But I think, again, what I love about our church is we have a lot of people who will tell it to you straight.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, it also comes back to like that preparation, what we were saying before about like delving into your own, like going into that place yourself with God, so that when you're going on a Sunday, you're spiritually prepared to like step onto that platform and actually be in the right mindset and know like, I'm leading people into God's presence, and it's not actually about me, but it's about God and like where we're going together. So yeah, that's what I was gonna say.
Guys, this is so great. It's amazing. Seriously. So I'm gonna ask you the last question.
I'm excited.
Okay. So this question, I know that is really important to a lot of people, because I know that there's a lot of people on our team that have expressed to me and have expressed to other team members, it's their dream one day to be a worship leader, and it's something that they have on their heart. What would you encourage them? What things can they be doing now, practically and spiritually, as they wait for that time to come? And yeah.
I think one thing that I struggled with a lot when I was younger was comparison. And I would look at other people who were like at a similar walk in life to me and thinking like, why can't I do what they're doing? And I think looking back on it now, if God had put me in a place to, you know, be leading people, I wouldn't have been spiritually ready. And that was why I wasn't doing what I was doing. And so it takes like time by yourself to actually be spiritually prepared. And like what we've been saying, like preparation is key, like knowing, you know, where you're leading people and being there yourself. And I think also like it happens in God's timing, and like crazy things can happen to bring it all together. And I think, you know, just knowing that like when it does happen, that will be in God's timing. And for right now, whatever you have in your hand, like being diligent with that. And then like later on, if that's where God really wants you to be, then that will happen in God's timing. And I think that has kind of happened, I've seen in my life, like, and looking back on it, it makes so much more sense than what I thought was like, oh, this should be happening now. Why is it not? Like, it's kind of like a little like check yourself moment, because I'm like, oh, like God was right all along, and I didn't really know what I was thinking. But you know, I think, yeah, it's just like one thing that I actually is like an awesome piece of advice that I got when I was younger. Crocker, he said that the people who are just consistent and then they're the longest. It's not the most talented, it's not the most gifted people, but it's the people that are consistent, who are just there and are ready to serve in whatever capacity that is. But that's the people that you see like leading, because like they're just the most consistent. They're the ones that have been there the longest. That's like the people that God uses in the end. And it's not like about talent. It's not about whoever is like the most amazing vocals. Like it's about the people who are consistent, who have been growing in their relationship and being diligent with what they have in their hands. And I think that kind of encapsulates like everything that this question is like. You know, it's just, you got to be consistent and just be there and with whatever you have. Yeah.
Dang, that was it. You didn't leave anything for me to say. No. Yeah, along the same lines, I think what I love about it is we're all serving, no matter where we find ourselves. And like Karina said, whatever your hand is, like whatever you're doing, do it like with all your might. Serve with all your might. I think I found myself like any opportunities that I've gotten, it's because I've just been serving and someone said, hey, would you like to do something? Would you like to do this? And it wasn't from a place of striving. So I'd say if worship leading is really in your heart, I say wherever you are right now, just serve and make it known that you want to worship lead. Don't be weird about it, but just serve and realize that it's all in God's timing, like Karina said. And well, I was going to say something else. Yeah, I can't remember what I was going to say.
Well, if it comes back to you,
yeah,
let us know.
Yeah.
I feel like what you were saying, like it's so true. Like literally, like anything that's ever happened is just because like you were there, and that's kind of what I've seen in my own life. Like the first time that I ever sang at youth, I was like on the team that is like designed for the night. We're like hanging up banners and whatever, and then someone came up to me and was like, hey, I wasn't even rusted or anything, and someone was like, hey, do you want to sing this? And I was like me? And then it kind of just, it's like the most random things, but it's like if you're like familiar and you're a part of the team, and then things just like fall into place in a God way that you would have never like expected yourself. But it's just like God brings that together if that's his will. Yeah,
exactly. And I think I kind of remember what I was going to say about while you're waiting for that opportunity, learn as much as you can. Like just watch people and ask yourself, why did they make that call, or why did they choose that song? And like just kind of get in that mindset of learning. Going along with what you said, Karina, I remember when I first started leading in Sydney, I would go up to Jad after and say, okay, what did I do wrong? Like, what could I do better? And then he said, just keep doing it. Just keep doing it. And as time goes on, like you'll get better, but just keep doing it. Just be consistent. Just be there and just serve wherever you find yourself.
I love that, guys. So much wisdom there. All right, just for fun, I just want to know how Shelter at Place, guys, words today. I just want to know how this time has been for you, being at home and during this time of quarantine. What has been your peak and what has been your pit? And if you have any encouragement for our team to end with that, and then we'll close it out in prayer.
I'll say that I've always had these excuses for myself creatively that I don't have enough time to, I don't know, write music or get into my creative side of things because there's always a million things to do. So I think during quarantine, I've found myself like writing more music, and like there's no excuse at this point, being more creative and like just kind of um, using my time that way. Um, so it's been really good. And I would encourage anybody who's at home, if you sing, if you write, whatever you do, that now's a perfect time to sharpen your gift. Now's a perfect time to sharpen what you're doing and even pick
Mhm.
up, explore new things that you've been wanting to do, but for whatever reason you haven't. You've got nothing but time, so might as well make the most of it.
For me, I guess like this is a creative podcast. There's probably creatives obviously watching, but um,
It's
for me, like the pit has been, like losing work and that kind of thing, and I know that a lot of people out there are feeling a similar thing, and yeah, just know that we're all in this together, and that God's going to come through, and that He's our provider, and He's our comfort yesterday, today, and forever. He stays the same. That's kind of what I've been like holding on to. And like there's things like shows and things. I know a lot of people may have a similar thing that can't happen anymore, obviously, and definitely like respecting what the government calls and everything like that. But also, as people, it's a place where it's hard. And
yeah,
that's a real place. And I love what Sam was saying, that he was saying like it's okay to be upset, and that God actually cares that we're upset, and He feels that with us. Anyway, I went off on a tangent, but anyway, like
that's
yeah,
good.
that's kind of been a hard spot. But positives, I guess, are what Kris was saying, like being able to create, being able to have more time on your hands, and yeah, definitely that's been a highlight. And I guess just seeing like the way that the church is like not actually a building, but it's people, and seeing the way that everyone rallies around each other, and the way that it's like there is a community, and even though we aren't meeting, there is still that community. I felt that so strongly, and I love that like we're still meeting and everything like that, and we're even like doing this is like an awesome way that I think it's like church isn't a building, we're people, and that community is something that has really helped me in this, and hopefully this is helping other people as well. And I guess yeah, encouraging people to like create and stuff, because that's definitely like an outlet for me to like have been able to get all those emotions out, whatever, but yeah.
Thank you guys so much for, again, taking the time out of your day to pour into our team, to share with us your wisdom on worship leading. I know it was so helpful for me, and I know it's going to be helpful for a lot of people. So thank you again so much for that. Kris, if you don't mind, would you take us out with praying over our team?
Love to. God, we love you and we thank you so much that you are here with each and every one of us. God, we may find ourselves in quarantine, God, but we believe that you are present, you are moving, and you are active in all of our lives. And I just pray over our team, Lord, that you would give them incredible ideas, that you would give them incredible peace in this time, God, that they would know that you are right there with them, God. And I just pray for people who sense that there's more on their life, God. I just pray for endurance, God, and I just pray that that they would see you, God, in everything, and that you would continue to build people's lives, God, according to what you have for us, God. And we give your name all the praise and all the glory and all the honor, God. Everything that we do, God, we aim to do it for you. And we want people to know you, God. We want people to experience your presence. That's why we do what we do, God. And so, yeah, would you just help us? Help us be more like you, Jesus. Help us, Holy Spirit, to see you as we need to, God. We love you and we thank you. In Jesus' name, we all said, amen.
Amen.
Amen. All right, we love you, team. Thank you so much for watching. And if you made it all the way to the end of the video, you're awesome. I can't wait for our video next week for our second part to the Worship Leader series, where we'll be asking questions to Dave Ware, and it's going to be so great. Make sure you tune into that. And make sure you subscribe if you're a part of our team so you can get notified when we have new videos coming out. We love you. We're giving you a hug and a kiss from afar. I can't wait to see you. Know you're thought about. Know you're loved. We love you guys.